Well, hey, good morning. It is that time again, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., where I come for Ask Rad Ideas and answer questions from church communicators about some of the issues that they're struggling with, things they could use a little bit of help or direction on, just practical strategies to help in this area. Talking from my experience of 7 years as a worship pastor and 12 plus years as a church communicator. Just trying to give practical advice for those of you out there in the trenches doing the work. So today we have two questions, and we're going to talk about church newsletters and Facebook posting strategies. So that's what's coming today, just to give you a heads up of what to expect. So the first question I've got today comes from Nancy Knopf. Okay, it says, do church newsletters still work? And if not, what is replacing them? Well, newsletters are still working for some churches, but not for all. And those that are having the best success still with a newsletter of some sort are the ones who are focusing more on people and less on events and promotions. And what they're doing is that they're engaging people not by telling you details. They're engaging people by talking about life change and the stories of God's faithfulness and what God is doing in their midst and things like that. So they are using a newsletter not as an event delivery system or event bulletin board. They're talking about it in the context of what God's doing in their ministry. So they're connecting with people in different ways. Now, if you're doing a print newsletter, which I think from the way that you've posed this question is maybe where you're coming from, Nancy, I would begin to think about transitioning away from a print bulletin to a digital email version of it. And rather than printing your newsletter each month, I would take the money that it costs to do that printing and the time that you've spent creating it, and I would move those dollars over towards an email service like maybe MailChimp, Constant Contact. They've got some great resources that would make it really simple and easy to transition into a digitally delivered version of your newsletter, because it will allow you to do a couple things. Is rather than putting all your time and efforts into a single publication each month, you could actually deliver three emails a month on a schedule, like every Wednesday an email goes out, or every other Wednesday an email goes out, something like that, that would allow you to get information out in a more timely fashion, but also get it out in an electronic form so that you aren't spending as much time creating print. You're going to save money then in the mailing, in the handing out, in the physical print, that type of thing. And those services, MailChimp, Constant Contact, and others, have great templates that'll help you set things up. And they even have nonprofit pricing or even some free options. So don't let the price tag scare you away from checking those out. They're great resources. But there's some things to remember, whether you're using a print one or whether you're using a digital one, is people are super, super busy. So you want to keep in mind that you need your content to be easily digested. So don't overwhelm them with the volume of things you talk about, and don't overwhelm them with the length of things. You're better to present an idea in an email and send them to your website for more information than you are to have an email that just scrolls on and on and on and on and on. And then you can also use this space to share stories of what God is doing. You can tell testimonies in that space. Let them know about upcoming ministry opportunities. The other cool thing I see that I've got people asking questions here in the feed, which is really cool. Thanks, guys. Is how do I know if people have received them? That's the other cool thing about using one of these services, is you can actually see how many people viewed the email, how many people engaged with it, what links they clicked on. There's some great ways to find out if it was and wasn't opened. Something I've done is if an email I've sent out and there's a portion of my group who didn't respond to the email, I will wait a few days and actually maybe change the subject line and send the exact same email out again to just the people who didn't open it the first time, so that I can increase the number of people who can engage with that information. Adam is mentioning here that single emails in a week, one email, multiple pieces of information. Adam, I personally would rather have one email that covers a couple small things and lets me go for more information. But I know that in some churches, in their organizations, it works better for there maybe to be like a youth email and an adult email or a children's ministry email. That was something that we did at our church actually, was you could get different information based on what group you were a part of. And the nice thing with like MailChimp Constant Contact is that you can easily set that up by groups, so you're only sending stuff to that specific group. So if someone doesn't have kids, they don't need to read about kids stuff. So that is one way to be thinking about that. Okay. And the other thing I see here in the notes is, what do I do with Google and their lovely info about junk mailbox? I know in MailChimp, that's a service that I'm using. There is a really cool feature that they've added that is helping fight the fact that sometimes emails are dropped into the spam folder or the junk folder in Google. And that is that you actually link your website and your email service provider for your church to MailChimp. And that sounds really complicated, but it is not all that difficult at all. They actually have a nice little tutorial that walks you through, explains who you've got to share information with, and it just verifies that that email is truly coming from a trusted provider. So it helps them then know, Google, Yahoo, whoever you have your emails from, the recipient rather has their emails from, it helps them know, hey, it's coming from a trusted person. This is not just spam that's coming into the spam folder. The other thing is you can always invite people to say, hey, make sure that you whitelist our email addresses from the church. Make sure they're in your contact list so your emails actually come through. All right, so those are some ways for you to think about moving from a print newsletter to an email communication that you can use on a regular basis. And I would encourage you, make that transition. For those people who maybe still want something printed, it's really easy to print a PDF out of either of those email providers and then get things into the hands of people so that they, those who actually want to read a physical something can do that. But you will save tons of time by using those templates and other tools that are available. So I've got a second question this week, and it comes from Sue DeWitt. And let me give you a little context here. It says, we are a smaller church with a multi-generational membership. We use our website, church app for push notifications one time a day, Facebook. Most of our people are comfortable with this avenue of social media, MailChimp, and our church bulletin to promote everything. How often should we be posting on Facebook? Should it be the same content as we push through our app? So I would think about your Facebook communications differently than your app communications. And here's why. Is that if someone has taken the time to find you and download your church's app, they are highly connected. Not only are they highly connected, the chances are they already have an idea of who you are, what you offer, the kind of services you have. They're just looking to stay up to date on event details, sermon recordings, videos, stuff that would be related more towards members or those highly connected people. Okay, they're willing to come towards you, to you, to get information. Okay, and I do have to say, you mentioned one time a day for push notifications. For me personally, that seems a little excessive. I can't imagine an app sending me 7 notifications a week. Even as a highly connected person, that would seem a little excessive. I would consider looking at 2 to 3 times a week, and rather than trying to find something creative to say every day. Say just what the most important thing is, and keep people up to date on that. But so if you think about your app from the standpoint of its people who are highly connected, okay, highly engaged, think about Facebook as a way to connect with the people who aren't as highly engaged, okay? You've got to connect with them relationally first. People are on social media not to have stuff sold to them, not to just be told about events. They're on social media to connect with other people and build relationships. And so they want to learn about you first. They want to learn about your church, who you are, what you offer, how you connect. So you can talk about the same things that you're talking about in your app, but I would talk about them in very, very different ways. I would approach them completely different. I wouldn't just talk about event details. I would focus on things like, why are we putting this ministry on? Who's experienced life change? Look for testimonies. What's happening behind the scenes at your church? Are there ways to be a part and experience life change? Ministries maybe in your area that aren't even necessarily your church ministries, but that are doing amazing things that you're supporting as a church, or who you partner with, that are affecting your community in positive ways. I would look for things like that that allow you to relationally share with people about your church, about what you're doing. And something you might do even is think about that e-newsletter that you have, or your maybe print newsletter that you're doing. Are there things that we can share back and forth, but share them maybe in a little bit different way that is engaging for someone who's not necessarily connected to our church, but is looking for information about ways to connect? Okay. And something that's really important when you're creating posts for Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, is to ask yourself, am I adding value with this post, or am I just adding noise to the person's life? Is it bringing clarity about the answers that our church provides and the ways that people can connect with us? Okay, so just something to be thinking about kind of as a filter to put your posts through. And I would start with Facebook with 3 to 4 posts a week. And if you can be on some sort of schedule so people learn to expect it, like Monday there's a post that maybe talks about what happened on Sunday. Maybe you've got a follow-up, you're linking to a sermon video, maybe quotes from the pastor for what happened the day before, something like that. Wednesday you do something else, Friday you do something else, that you've got some sort of set schedule so people begin to realize, okay, I'm going to see something in my feed on a specific day of the week that's from my church, so that there can be consistency, there can be follow-up. Okay. And I would begin to watch really the engagement on how people are engaging with those 3 or 4 posts each week. Look at not just the likes and the follows, because those are important, but they're not really key indicators of what's going on. You want to look at the conversations happening around your posts. What's happening surrounding your content? Are people sharing it with other people? Are they having conversations? Think about it more from a strategic standpoint of how is this affecting the lives of the people who are reading it, and are they seeing the value in it? And I then begin to keep track of the type of posts that are working really well for you. And those posts that are working, I would find ways to keep using those posts over and over, and use that information then to your advantage as you create posts going forward into the future. Use that Facebook scheduling feature, or an app like Buffer or Hootsuite that will allow you to think a little further out rather than just in the minute, so you can be thinking strategically, okay, Wednesday I need a post and it's Tuesday. Rather than throwing something together at the very last moment, I'm going to put something together today that I know will add value when it goes out tomorrow. And that way you also have a little bit better tracking and analytics. If you've got a question you'd like to submit for Ask Rad Ideas, visit radideas.com/AskRadIdeas to submit your question.